Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new chapter of Old Man Brad. Whether you are new to the show or returning for another chapter, thank you so much for giving me a listen. If you love the show, drop me a review over on your favorite podcast app or become a patron, patreon.com/oldmanbrad. Just like last week with Public Domain Horror, we did Popeye. Now we are back with more Steamboat Willie. This week I'll be talking about Screamboat. And then I have another great interview for you. I had the chance to talk with director Stephen LaMorte and producer and one of the stars of the movie, Amy Schumacher. It was a great interview that they really went into a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff on the movie, which stuff I really enjoy. But before we dive into all things Screamboat, coming up on that time of the year again, Livestream for the Cure is happening in May. May 16th and 17th, happens over on Twitch. This will be, I believe, my 7th year being involved in it. And it is content creators from all over the world banding together to raise money for cancer research. Join in the fun on May 16th and 17th over on Twitch. I will be on May 16th at 11 p.m. I will be closing out the first night. It's going to be a fun little game that I am putting together for it. But please tune in and help us raise money for cancer research. All right, it's time to dive into Screamboat.
Coming soon from the wonderful world of Willie. Set sail for an adventure like no other. Meet Steamboat Willie. He's wacky, he's wicked, and he's whistling his way into your heart. Literally. Oh! All aboard the Staten Island ferry, Willie's world of mischief and mayhem. But he's not taking this trip alone. Willie is joined by a group of unsuspecting passengers, along with 5 fearless friends: Cindy, Bella, Jazzy, Ariana, and Rory.
Let's get this jungle cruise going!
Be our guest on a New York City ferry ride that turns into a hilarious nightmare when a mischievous mouse, Steamboat Willie, becomes a monstrous reality. Can the unsuspecting passengers survive the creature's miniature murder and mayhem? This is co-written and directed by Stephen LaMorte. It stars Tyler Posey, David Howard Thornton as Steamboat Willie, Amy Schumacher, and so many others. I'm not going to get too deep into the movie on this side of the interview. All I will tell you up front is I had so much fun with this film. This is probably my favorite of the Steamboat Willie films to come out thus far. I'll probably say it again, but this movie knew the assignment and it went with it. It went comedic, cheesy, bloody fun. That's what it needed to be. I'll talk more about that after our interview. So let's move into my chat with Stephen LaMorte and Amy Schumacher, and I will talk with you on the other side. My guests today have been involved in such films as Bury Me Twice and The Mean One. Their new film, Screamboat, is out in theaters April 2nd. I want to welcome in Stephen LaMorte and Amy Schumacher. How you doing today?
Hi.
Hey there.
Thanks for having us.
Tell everyone a little bit about Screamboat. I know there's Steamboat Willie. There's a few out there. So what kind of sets your film a little bit differently?
Yeah, well, Screamboat is a horror comedy, right? So it's a horror comedy reimagining of Steamboat Willie. He's a tiny murder mouse played by David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown in Terrifier. And he's about 3 feet tall. He runs around on the Staten Island ferry, terrorizing passengers, commuters, and other people that are on the boat once it sets sail from New York City to Staten Island. So a lot of what makes our film sort of special and unique and really fun, I think, is not just the New York backdrop, but the comedy of it. Like, it is meant to be a fun theatrical experience. You go with your friends, you have a laugh, you watch our little mouse run around, and we've got big jokes and Disney references and buckets of blood.
Oh, there are plenty of Easter eggs, that's for sure, and I laughed.
That's right.
Definitely,
That's right.
Definitely. And something that was really important to us is that we wanted to create a character. We wanted him to be a creature, not maybe a guy in a mask or anything like that. It was really important to us that we honored the IP and really made him a creature who, was living and breathing and full of life.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because yours, the other ones that have come out thus far, it's just someone in a mask. Someone in a Steamboat Willie mask, and you took it to more. He's the actual character. He's a mouse character. Now, when you were creating Screamboat, because you've worked with David previously on the Mean One, did you have David in mind for Steamboat Willie?
Absolutely, yeah. We knew David was on board and going to play the character even before the script was fully written. Once the idea was in our minds that was the next thing we wanted to do, we approached David and he was all on board, super excited for it. Of course, throwing out ideas and silly voices and just being, David through and through. But David was a part of the creation in that he was in everyone's mind during the writing and creating and characters design process.
He's I've met him a couple times, and he's a very just energetic guy.
Oh, he's really animated for sure. And it's very much a skill, not only to wear the makeup and to perform in the makeup and just function, but to really perform, to give that big, he's a live action cartoon character, right? So he's not skulking around like Michael Myers. He's Steamboat Willie. He's doing Steamboat Willie. So he dances, he whistles, he moves around. We knew that we had to cast Steamboat Willie first before I really got into writing the script, because it had to be doable, right? Not only from a technical standpoint, but from a performance standpoint. If we want this guy to be equal parts scary and funny, you need someone who can do that. And there's no one better than David Howard Thornton.
You mentioned previously, the New York backdrop. This takes place on a ferry, and there's actually a little bit of who owns the ferry that you filmed on. Had some SNL alums.
We are very grateful that I'm from Staten Island. I grew up there. And so the New York City backdrop of the film, I've always wanted to make a movie on a Staten Island ferry. And thankfully, the Staten Island community and my New York City roots run deep. And we were able to connect with a bunch of awesome New Yorkers. And they were able to help facilitate us using that decommissioned ferry. As far as who owns it and where it came from and where it is now, I can't speak to that. But we're very grateful, as always, for the city of New York and the awesome. I just love shooting there. And the Staten Island gets a bad rap sometimes. It's a place that has a lot of like island pride and loyalty. And so, being a Staten Island filmmaker coming back, there was a lot of people in New York that wanted to see us make this movie and make it right. And they helped make it happen.
And in filming on a ferry, were there challenges for you? Kind of, you're in a more compressed area than, say a big set or something like that.
Absolutely. I think there were elements of being on the ferry that were so much better than we could ever even imagine in terms of production value or being on a set. There's no soundstage that would have given us the quality and the energy and the aesthetic that the actual decommissioned ferry gave us. But, oh man, being on Staten Island was kind of a challenge in and of itself, and getting actors from New York and people from New York to Staten Island. But then once you're on the ferry, it's on a boatyard, like a shipyard, and it's massive. It has so many stairs and 3 floors, and we're shooting on the roof. And the fact that we were able to shoot on the roof overnight in the dark with the New York backdrop was amazing. But once you're up on the roof and you forgot something down on the ground floor, you've got a 15-minute journey to get back down there because the ferry is huge. And it's metal. So, any temperature that it is outside is exacerbated inside. It was cold for a few days and it was freezing inside, and it was really warm a couple days later, and it was, a sauna inside. So we had a lot of those factors to deal with, but I think all in all, it was really worth it because the ferry itself is a character in the movie, and it really added so much.
You would think, most times making a boat movie has its challenges. And you would think, oh well, everything on a boat, like shooting in a real prison or shooting in a real apartment or shooting on a real boat, would be really compressed. We had the opposite. The boat seats 3,000 or something like that. It's just huge, and it's completely symmetrical. So
Yes.
if you walk to the wrong end of the boat by accident, you don't realize that you are literally in the wrong spot, and you have to turn around and walk all the way back to the other side. So there's a lot of moments where we just completely. You would forget where you were on the boat, and you're like, how do I get off? Which way's off? which is pretty fun. But it's it's lived in. It's a real ferry. It's in great condition. So I mean it's obviously an older model, but I mean it's in great condition, and it's you can look in any direction, and it's New York City. It's fantastic.
Amy, I wanted to ask you, you're a dual role on this. You're a producer, and you also play the EMT character in the movie. Starring in the movie. How was it working as a, that role of in front of the camera, behind the camera as well?
Yes. It's a challenge to produce and act in a film, but it's what I've been doing for quite some time. This was one of the bigger challenges I'd taken on, only because the production was relatively large, but also my character played a lot of days. I like to consider myself an actor before producer, so the acting element of it was the best part for me, and so much fun, and getting to go toe to toe with Steamboat Willie in the movie was so much fun. And in just the development and design of the character and writing the script and all of that, watching my character develop through the early pre-production process, and then getting to play it and perform it and be on the boat and living in the moment was awesome. But it was a big challenge for sure.
For you, for the first time you got to be on with David, how was that? Like the first time you're like, okay, here he is, full makeup.
It was so incredible, actually. It was interesting because once he was in full makeup, I found myself staring at him. And, his eyes are blacked out because he's got his mouse contacts on, and I'm staring at him, and I realize he looks at me, and I'm like, oh, this must feel weird for you because I'm just like gawking at you, and you can see me even though I feel like you're not, like you're a mouse. But all the detail and all the elements of the suit and the prosthetics and his expressions and stuff were so lifelike, but also so cute, even though he was a murderous mouse. Like he walked onto set and everyone stopped in their tracks and got their phones out and wanted to make videos and, and film him doing it. And we worked with a puppet for some of it. So in some of the elements that David couldn't do because he's 3 feet tall in the movie, we used a puppet. You call him as like the stand-in for David. And so my character has some scenes where we're physically touching. And if that's happening, it has to be the puppet. Otherwise, David is 6'2" or whatever he is. He
has to be very far away from the
guy.
camera to look appropriately small using forced perspective.
Yeah, so we used some camera tricks and things like that. And when that didn't happen, we used the puppet, and the puppet was incredible also. I mean, the detail in the puppet and just the puppeteering the actual puppet made it scary. Like I didn't have to find the fear because this thing would be coming at me, and it got your heart rate going for sure. But also then you wanted to like cuddle him and talk to him like he was a little pet, like I talked to my cat. He was just so cute and cuddly feeling, and then so murderous.
You have to resist the urge to hug David when he, because it's like being at Disneyland or Disney World or, because he's 6'5", he's got the hat, he's fluffy,
huge ears.
He's furry. And because of the makeup and his face, I mean, it's even when you see Mickey Mouse or Goofy at a theme park, their face is static, right?
Yeah.
And David walks up and he's like, he's smiling and he's emoting and he's like, what's the next shot, Steve? I'm like, okay, so for this scene, you're going to give me a big old hug, you furball. Like, he's just so cute. And you forget that his ears don't work. So when, he's got these giant ears, but they're covering his actual ears. So oftentimes I'd find myself giving him direction and he just, what was that? And you're like, right, your big ears don't work. Like you just forget. He just becomes Steamboat Willie. And then he's in that suit all day. So David shows up in the morning and then we don't see him again until wrap because he's just like bolted into this thing all day. And at lunch, we have some pretty funny photos of him at lunchtime because it's Steamboat Willie on the lunch line. We can't take him out. He's like, he's stitched into this thing and he's just sitting there having a conversation. Oh, last week, I was in Pennsylvania doing this, and you just see him sitting, eating with a little fork in his little mouth, his mouse mouth. It's really hysterical. It's very funny.
You were talking about how, he's a smaller character, and shooting it where you had to have him, scenes if you had characters and he's further away. How was that trying to, really plan out of, okay, the camera has to be here. He has to be like way over there in order for it to work.
Every movie is like a jigsaw puzzle. And when you're doing a VFX movie, half of the puzzle pieces are blank, right? So you really have to know what's on that box before you start shooting to make sure that when it comes together, the clouds are on the top and the water's on the bottom and everything fits. So it really came down to planning and, doing as much as we can in the different meetings, whether it's with storyboards or you might crude little sketches of how we're going to execute some of these shots. What are the shots we need? And because you're not shooting them at the same time, there are some sequences in the film that were shot in 3 different states, where you're shooting one element on the boat, one element in a studio, one element at a water, things like that. So insert stage. So a lot of it just comes down to planning. Everyone has to really be on their A game to deliver, because you can't bring a prop or you can't bring an element into the film that doesn't fit in with the other pieces that we've already shot, because normally you would film the scene, all the elements would be in the room, you'd film it, and then you've got it. But here, the third character in a 3-person scene is missing. He's not there. We're not filming with him unless the puppet's there or David's there. So it requires a lot of patience and a lot of trust from in each other, and also from the team with me, that if they look to the right, there's going to be a mouse there when we're done. Or, Amy has a sequence where she interacts with David, and they're 20, 30 feet apart from each other. Using this, forced perspective technique. But the cool thing about doing in-camera practical effects is it's a pain in the ass. But when you look at the monitor, it works because you can see it. It's there. It's in camera. So there's a lot of these really magical moments that we have on set where you're sitting at the monitor and everyone's looking, and we're like, it's like when the cake comes out from the bakery, you're like, we did it. We brought eggs and we have milk and we baked it and we set the temperature right. Everybody come look, we did it. And that's really cool. And that's what I think is sort of, sometimes you lose with big VFX movies where you're shooting on green screen or making these decisions after the fact. It sort of loses its life because you don't know. And then later you're making these choices. Whereas us, we can decide, he's going to have a big, bold streak of light across his face, and we film it and we can see it and we know we've got it. And so we are, even though this is fantastical, we are still creating the movie and making these shots scene by scene by scene. And it's really rewarding when you can just look at your raw footage and know that's a tiny mouse, and it works.
There were multiple days on set where the only person I felt like who could wrap their mind around what was actually and how this actually was going to work was Steven. Where I'm like, I trust you and believe you, but I don't get it. I don't get how we're going to make him small and then blow something else up. Like it really takes like a lot of trickery in the mind to figure it out.
Thankfully, we have with some of these things, when we have, like I said, as awesome of a team as we do, I can talk to the script supervisor to make sure that the eye lines are correct or the scale is right. Or we can, sometimes we'll have on some days we had the editor on set with us, and his assistant is on set, and we're pulling up not just the references of what we shot on that day, but we're pulling up the actual scene. Really just being able to know that the pieces are going to fit together because we're able to use a little bit of digital technology and point to these this reference material and saying like, oh, okay, great. This shot's going to go here. That means, the light needs to be different or, what have you. So we start with like a storyboard, and I cut a lot of the scenes with the storyboards with music. And then we did test footage. And then once you start shooting, we're like switching the storyboards out for shots of David or, effect shots or what have you. And then slowly but steadily, the puzzle comes together. But there are definitely some days where it's just me and an iPad in the captain's deck. And I'm like, guys, just trust me. We need to do blank. And they're like, okay, we'll try. There's literally footage. This made me laugh. The other day, I was fishing something out of the raw material, and I could hear the camera guys. They're like, I think this is what he wants. Well, we'll find out if it works when we get to the theater. And I'm like, yep. So even then, there's proof that they're like, well, we just have to trust, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I will say, I've told people, I was like, you need to see this. This is out of the Steamboats. It knew the assignment. It's a cartoon character, and it's having fun. It was a blast. Absolute blast. You guys,
thank you.
I had so much fun with it.
Oh, thank you.
As you were making it, were there a lot of conscious things that you had to do because, the big mothership who has Steamboat Willie was watching to make sure that you don't mess up and go the wrong way one way or the other?
We took that pretty seriously. Having just come off the Mean One, we had a little bit of experience with working with IP. That was parody. So this, we had the opportunity to really go for it in a different kind of way. But we had spoken with a lawyer. We ran the script by the lawyer. We ran photos, all that stuff by people to tell us, you are in the clear, go, full steam ahead on this material. Which allowed us to have a lot more fun because we want to honor the IP. We want to make him a cartoon character who's having fun. And so I think it was really important to us to be able to do that and make sure, keep his hat on at all times. And David, I resist the urge to speak
because
do the voice,
you're not
David. Allowed to do it. And, and all of those elements. And you saw all of our Easter eggs, our Disney Easter eggs of
I probably didn't catch them all.
To Disney and nods to things. There's so many.
There's so many. There's at least 33. The joke that something that I like to say, maybe it's not a joke, but it's a thought, is that some people have this idea that we don't like these characters or it's trivial to us that we're just, turning them into something different. But when you see the movie and you've seen it, I think people will realize that it's a love letter to Steamboat Willie. It's clearly made by not just fans of horror movies, but fans of all the source material. And so part of the way that we honor that is by really doing it, making him a mouse, making him a cartoon, cartoon-like and animated and all that, which also allows us to stay within the bounds of not only not ruining it, but not deviating off the path that we're allowed to do. Because, if there are real limits that come up if we were to break some of these rules, and we really want as many people to see the film as possible. So we want to do it right, if you will, both conceptually and legally.
Comes out April 2nd. Now, what's the future for Screamboat after that? Will there be a physical release and sequels, although I don't want to give anything away of the movie?
Yes. Well, Screamboat is going to be everywhere. So April 2nd, it opens here in the United States. Shortly thereafter, the movie will be in theaters, not only all across the country and all across North America, but it'll be in Latin America. It'll be in Europe. It'll be in the Middle East. It'll be in some parts of Asia. I mean, the movie's going to be everywhere in theaters first, which is amazing and fantastic. Seeing my wife dubbed in French while she kicks ass in an action trailer is hysterical. I love it so much.
French and Russian.
We've
really
seen
good.
Russian.
It's so fun
the
to
Polish.
see.
I saw some Polish trailers today that made me laugh. It's just preposterous. No one should ever let us make movies, and yet here we are. So yes, we're starting in theaters. We'll be everywhere, and the movie will be streaming shortly after the movie is in theaters. I mean, our hope is to be in. We're only guaranteed 1 week in the theaters, so people really have to show up and see it that first week if we hope to get extended and you sort of create a wave, because I think a lot of people are going to see the movie and then want to tell people you have to come, you have to sit with an audience and see this thing. You don't want to watch it home alone. You want to, grab a beer and some popcorn and have a laugh while a mouse murders people. But we'll do streaming shortly after that, and then there'll definitely be a physical release, DVD, Blu-ray. We have an awesome Mean One steelbook that came out last year, really really nice, and so we definitely want to do a cool steelbook because we have so much amazing behind the scenes material, footage of the miniatures, footage of the boat, footage of the makeup, footage of the gore. I mean, there's some kills where one person is dying and there is literally 6 people operating this mechanical monster in order to make him die. And there's so many funny photos we have of oversized props if they're, for some of these kills. And we want to share that with the world in a really cool special edition. And then, we have other stuff too that we're doing and related to the movie. We have our own escape room that we just announced. The score was recorded by a live 30-piece orchestra So we're going to be putting the score out so people can hear our, amazing composers' beautiful work. And then, if people show up and they see Screamboat and there's interest, we definitely have interest in doing a sequel. So it's going to really all come down to, is there story left to tell based on where the movie ends? And, do people show up in the theaters and see it?
They'll have to go see and see if there is if they want more. I do.
Excellent. Well, there you go. Well, we have at least one person in the bag for the sequel.
Stephen and Amy, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with me about Screamboat. And everybody, go see it April 2nd. Let's support indie horror. I'm a big supporter of indie horror, and go out and check it out.
We appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
The only way we get to make these movies is if people go and see them, because it tells the studios and it tells us that these films have value, and sometimes you want to see something a little different. It has to come from a smaller production company or an independent team, but it also means that we don't have the restrictions the big guys do. We knew we were unrated from the start, and that's why the movie has all of the preposterous things that it has. So yes, people got to come out and check it out the first week. Pre-buy their tickets if they can is really, really helpful to us, because it shows that we should keep our show times and stay in theaters, and tell a friend. If you like it, tell somebody. Maybe drag them to the theater with you. Maybe go see it with them 2 times. Maybe you both buy 2 tickets and just spread out in the theater. It doesn't matter. We want people to see the flick. We want to get extended, and that's only going to happen if people support us. And we're appreciative for that.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I want to thank Stephen and Amy again for chatting with me. It was such a blast. I talked with them a little bit after our recording, and, go see this movie. It comes out April 2nd. Go see this movie. I unfortunately didn't get David Howard Thornton on. I wanted to chat with him. He was at Horror Hound Weekend this past week, and I chatted with him a little bit one night. He was hanging out, and he was just talking to a group of us. We talked a little bit about Steamboat Willie and how much fun that he had with this movie, and how it was just a total blast. You can tell within this film that he was just having a good time. This movie, like I said before the interview, knew the assignment. It is cheesy fun. I mean, there's even a mallet gag in it, and that's honestly probably what really sold me. I was like, yes, this movie knows what it is. This movie is just having fun. There are a lot of gags, a lot of jokes, tons of Easter eggs. You heard in the interview, Stephen, I think he said 33 or somewhere around there. But there are lines that you'll hear that you're like, oh, wait, that is from a Disney movie. Or there's little trinkets laying around. There's one piece in the water that I really enjoyed that was a good Easter egg. But watch for those as you're watching it for sure. Some of them are right there out in the open. Some of them you'll just kind of get, and you'll be like, oh, wait, did they just? They did. That's hilarious. This film doesn't take itself too seriously. It is very comedic. It is funny seeing, David Howard Thornton in the full Steamboat Willie. He's walking around whistling. And at first I was like, why isn't he talking? I was waiting to see if there was some line, if he was going to speak. But when you think about it, Steamboat Willie doesn't ever talk. He whistles. So he goes around, he's whistling, he's killing people. He's only 3 feet tall, which makes it even more fun. It's all contained on, the single location of this ferry, which I had no idea that the ferry was as large as they were. I've never been on one. But in the interview, how they were talking about how large it was, it's kind of insane to think of like, this is just one giant movie set on the water, and we have all this space just to play with. The previous Steamboat Willie movies that have come out, Mousetrap, I Heart Willie, Mouse of Terrors. I haven't seen current one, another one that just came out called Mouseboat Massacre, but they've all been just someone in a mask, someone in a Steamboat Willie black and white mask. This one, what I love about this one is they went full, we're going Steamboat Willie the character. We're making a full mouse character that is running around terrorizing this group of people on this ferry. And There are some kills in this that are pretty good. You have a mix of practical work, which I love. If anyone has seen Steven's previous film that he did, The Mean One, where he took The Grinch and turned it into like a spoof Hallmark movie of the week kind of film with the Grinch going around killing people, which it was a dumb movie, but I did find myself kind of enjoying it because my wife and I watch a lot of Hallmark and it made fun of that stuff. This is the same way. It's making fun of itself. It's going as bonkers as I can be. Make sure you go see this movie because I 100% want to see a sequel to this. I want to see Screamboat 2. So go check out Screamboat so we can get the sequel to find out how much crazier they can go with it. How much 3-foot mouse carnage can happen in the next one. Well, there you go. There are my ramblings on Screamboat. And on my way out, I wanted to come up with a really good double feature. This year I'm doing a double feature with every movie that I talk about. Last week when we did Popeye, I did Punch, Mr. Punch from the Judy and Punch puppet show. This week, I just have to say Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, just the first one needs to be your double feature. I know a lot of people don't like that first Blood and Honey. They prefer the second one. But there's just something about the first one that is just so dumb. And for me, so bad it's good. There are some good kills in it. May Kelly has a great death scene in it. Hers might be one of the best kills in the movie. There's some other hilarious moments throughout the first Blood and Honey that, I've gone back and I've watched that one multiple times because it's really one of the first ones that got me hooked with all these. Go watch Screamboat, and then you can go watch Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, the first one, or you can watch the second one, that's fine. But the first one is on Peacock, or if you don't have Peacock, it is also on Pluto TV. But yeah, there's your double feature for this chapter. On my way out, I will say, if you are in the Cincinnati area, come out to Frightful Fridays on the third Friday of the month. I'm so thankful to be partnered with the Esquire Theater to be able to host a horror screening each month. Our screening coming up for April on April 18th at 10 p.m. We are going to have the 4K restoration of Lucio Fulci's The Beyond. I'm pretty excited to be able to see this version of the film on the big screen. I think it's going to look fantastic. When we did the 4K, The Thing, a couple months ago, it looked absolutely stunning on the big screen. Can't wait to see how this is going to look on the big screen. But come out April 18th. Let's watch a movie together. Well, that will do it for this chapter of Old Man Brad. Just make sure you subscribe to the show and you will never miss any chapter, any of my series Tales from Tubi when they come out, or my new series Versus, which you'll want to go listen to my April Fool's Day, the first episode, April Fool's Day. My wife and I talk about the original and the remake. I mean, you know which one is better. I'm working on the next one coming soon, but if you subscribe, you'll never miss it. I have some great interviews lined up for the next few weeks. Can't wait to bring them to you. Just snuggle up in that blanket, turn off the lights, because it's okay to be scared. We'll talk to you later, everybody.